Continuing our devotional series this week, I'm going to be reading with you the story of Jesus being anointed by a woman with expensive perfume as she prepares him for burial. So we're going to be reading in Matthew 26, starting in verse 6. It says, "While Jesus was in Bethany, in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. 'Why this waste?' they asked. 'This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor.'" So let's pause and look at the disciples' response. They said that they were indignant, meaning that they were displeased, almost even annoyed or angry with what they're seeing the woman do. They said, "Why this waste?" And in Mark, in his account, it says that the perfume was a year's wage worth of money. And so they saw it as waste. Her act of devotion or even worship, to them they saw as waste, and it should have been what they said, given to the poor, where they could see that money go further. But let's look at what Jesus says in verse 10. It says, "Aware of this, Jesus said to them, 'Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me.'" And so he sees it and he says, this is a beautiful thing. It pleases Jesus. He does not scold her for what she has offered him, but rather he receives her worship and is pleased by it. And so this is good for us to hear, church, and for us to meditate on. In the same way, Jesus is not in the flesh with us today, but he is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and he asks for our complete devotion and worship. And in Romans 12, it says to present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable to the Lord. It pleases him, and he wants our whole lives, not just some of it, but our whole lives. And so I just want to encourage you that a heart that is fully devoted to Jesus might lead to worship and devotion that the world and even other disciples might look at and judge. They might see as strange, but it pleases the Lord. It's a beautiful thing. And then in verse 12 it says, "When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." So whether this woman knew it or not, we're not sure, but she was preparing his body for burial. So Jesus being prophetic here of what's about to happen. And in Jewish customs, they would anoint over a body for burial. And we know that later, Jesus was not anointed with oil before he was buried. And so that's actually why the women came to the tomb with spices and with oil. But little did they know that he was already anointed with perfume that was a year's wage for the Lord of Lords, for the King of Kings. And when they came to the tomb, instead, they find it empty, our risen Savior. And so we'll continue to read on that this week. And church, I just encourage you to continue to seek to obey the Lord with costly obedience, that it pleases the Lord.